pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. To get us going tonight, we are starting tonight's meeting with a public hearing, and this is in regard to use of capital reserve funds for the procurement of services to the district. The public hearing was posted under RSA 19820C, and at this point, I will welcome. I don't need to go to a motion to a public hearing, right? Yeah. I'll welcome public to come up and speak on the public hearing. And while public comes up, I'll turn it over to the superintendent for a quick update on the public hearing objectives.
Yeah. So this public hearing, we're looking to take out funds to complete a capital needs assessment for all three buildings. This would be a company called On-Site Insight that would be conducting the capital needs assessment. The total proposal is $31,000 to do it for all three schools. So $8,500 for GMS, $9,750 for LMS, and then $12,750 for CHS. And we're looking to do that and move forward with that plan.
And just remind everybody, if I may, what capital reserve account we are specifically targeting?
Yes. Give me 1 second.
Is this the Capital Improvement Expendable Trust Fund?
Yes.
Yeah, and so just as a reminder for those listening in, the Capital Improvement Expendable Trust Fund was passed by the voters on March 10th, 2020, with the specific purpose of funding the study, planning, and cost of new construction or renovation of existing facilities in the Litchfield School District, as recommended by the Capital Planning Committee. All right, and with that, we'll turn it over to Mr. Oblinus. Mr. Oblinus, just your address, please.
Yes, thanks. Ron Oblinus, 15 Riverview Circle. And I want to begin by saying I'm not opposed to doing the study, but I have some points that I want to bring up relative to the study. Two of them, really. One is procedure as far as following a policy, and secondly is the rationalization of why we're doing this. The first one is, like I said, relative policy. The proposals for $31,000, and I believe that without any solicitation of three bids or any other seeking of anybody else to do the work, you're in violation of your school policies. To that end, the reason I bring that up is initially when it was brought up, I thought I understood that this company was somewhat exclusive to schools, and this is what they do for their business. Well, that's not entirely true. They are actually what's called in the capital needs assessment business, if you will. That's actually a discipline, and their work includes essentially commercial buildings, and that's the when they go out and evaluate buildings, including schools, that's what they do. So they're not exclusive to schools, and a quick search on the internet finds that there's another company that does the same thing in Portsmouth. So the point being is they're not the only ones available to do this, and I question whether we should have sought other proposals in accordance with your policy.
I can speak on the policy if that's all right with the board.
Sure.
Were you complete?
I'm complete on that point if you want to speak to that point.
Yeah. So we have policy DJB, which is our purchasing procedures. It's an extension of policy DJ, which is our purchasing policy. And it does say in there, if you're doing purchases of $20,000 and one above, that you can go out and get bids and quotations for these. But there's a bunch of exceptions listed to that that allows you to not have to go out into that bidding process. Some of these exceptions include professional services. I would consider a capital needs assessment a professional service. Maintenance contracts are in here. I don't know if this falls under that umbrella. I wouldn't say that. It could lead to maintenance down the road, but it's not itself a maintenance contract. Sole source supply, there are others who do capital assessments. This is one of the leaders in this particular industry who does it specifically for schools. Not that they exclusively do for schools, but they do specialize in schools. And then the last bullet is any other purchases deemed to be within the best interest of the district and approved by the board. So that does give us some leeway here to move forward with this without a bidding process. We discussed this at the last board meeting. We were comfortable moving forward with the public hearing tonight, and that's why we're here to do that. So in my estimation, we are following the policy in regards to moving forward in this procedure, so.
I disagree with you, simply because there's other firms that do this, and it is somewhat of a standard discipline. And I think the fact that you don't have you don't have standards in place for hiring professional services, i.e. you don't have a policy for qualification-based services, then you are doing exactly what you've done recently with hiring or continuing to use a firm without following proper procedures, which quite truthfully you don't have in place. The exceptions, as you stated here, if you read through other parts from that, it talks about the intent of all procedures is to have a competitive and fair procedure for hiring of services. And I really do think you're violating that. I'll stop there. I'll let the board decide, but I really do think you're violating that.
Sorry, was there more?
Not on that. Go ahead.
Okay. So, thank you. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. I think from my perspective, we're really trying to follow the lead of the Facilities Improvement Committee, right? And could you just remind me, Mr. Shoemaker, was the Facilities Improvement Committee behind this research being performed?
Yeah. I mean, not unanimously, obviously.
No, I actually voted for it.
Oh, okay. I don't remember if you had voted for it. Yes, we were behind it.
Okay. I'm just thinking in terms of the policy itself, right? I mean, there's other opportunities we could look at, again, chunking it up, so to speak, and getting under the thresholds so it's within our policy. I mean, that's an option. It's an option.
It's a subterfuge to do it that way.
Okay. I don't think it's in the best interest of the district to do it that way either, as the board has already previously talked about, but I'm saying options. What are the board's thoughts or other comments on the 31,000?
I'm in favor of it. I think that our goal, from what we discussed at the Facilities Committee, was that we think that the Turner report is pretty much outdated at this point. One point that has been raised by Mr. Blennis himself is that we need to have a better grasp on every little piece of the current building for a variety of different proposals, whether it be renovating and additions, or as Mr. Blennis has proposed, just doing repairs to the building. We need to have that information, and I think timely information is important in this. This particular company has done work throughout the state of New Hampshire at schools. I believe they've done a school that the superintendent was at. Or,
they did work in the district I was in.
In the district he was in.
Yep.
So I think that we're not blindly looking for someone. We've had these folks did not solicit us. They didn't reach out to us. It's not like they solicited us and we said, okay, we're not going to, look for anyone else. We took a look to see who we thought might be a good fit, and that's the route that we're going. So, yeah.
Okay. Any other board comments?
I would just say there's a pretty good discussion at the facilities meeting, and really it was a pretty strong, I don't remember the exact numbers, but it was a strong approval to move forward with it this way.
Okay.
Can I just raise the one point? Is what we voted on was doing the study. We didn't vote on the policy. I actually brought up.
No, and the facilities committee would not vote on the policy, and you and I had an exchange that Litchfield is not bound by QBS or QSB. What I can always screw that one up. That's a federal regulation, and we're not bound by that. We have a purchasing policy that we believe we're within the guidelines of the policy.
You actually have the term qualification-based services in your procurement documents.
But we don't follow the federal regulation that you brought up. For
you actually have it in there. You can do what you want, but I think you're in violation of the intent of everything that's in the policy. When you get to an amount of this size, everything that you read through there says you're supposed to go out and seek bids. And like I said, if this was the only company, and if you could come to us tonight and say, no, we've researched, there's nobody else available, time-wise or other restraints that lead to selecting these on a sole source base, I wouldn't have any problem with it. But that's not the case.
I'm curious who this Portsmouth company is. I'm not familiar with them.
Neither am I. I just looked them up. They do capital needs assessment. The point being is there's been no effort to solicitate anybody other than this one firm.
In terms of time and timeline, right, do we have a commitment from this vendor?
I mean, they're waiting for us to approve it.
Yes.
So, they're comfortable with scheduling. I mean, when we first reached out, very preliminary in July, we were shooting for a September date. We're getting close to the end of September. Think of that as a 2-month window there from us first having that conversation to scheduling an appointment. We're now wrapping up September. It could be November by the time we get them up here to do this, do this type of work at this point. I mean, it's the board's decision ultimately. I would feel comfortable, we're here at this public hearing to do this as necessary. If you would like, I could not find any companies that do this specifically for schools. There are plenty of capital needs assessment companies that do big industries and do things. I'm not familiar with other ones that specifically say they do it for schools. So if you know where that Portsmouth company is, I'd be happy to research them.
The point being is they're not exclusive to schools. They do capital needs for commercial buildings, of which schools are one. The procedure to do capital needs assessment, in fact, if you look at this, there's nothing in here specific to schools, correct? In fact, you stated that before. They don't look at it from an educational, school-only point of view.
Correct, but they do look at schools. They know how schools operate.
Well,
I think that's an important distinction. School runs differently than, an office building or, a museum or countless other big industrial buildings.
well, if you look through what actually is produced here, there's nothing that says anything that's relative to schools in here.
So,
This form is likely used for every report they do.
so that being said, I think my big concern here is timeline. The board expressed desire to move forward, mainly because we're trying to march forward to having a full district-wide appreciation of needs going into March. Not necessarily for a new elementary school to be put on the ballot for March, but certainly to potentially look at other areas in the district that we might be able to address for March. And using the dated Turner report doesn't really serve us any good. And following the direction of our superintendent, right, and having kind of that top-level view, we do think, or we have discussed it being important. Any other board discussion?
I have some reservations about doing this, only because having been part of the the story up till now, I have reservations about spending another $31,000 on. I know it's all 3 schools, and it is good to have an updated, plan. But doing another study on what GMS needs when we have 20 years of studies and committees and experts, and the state came and evaluated our building for how it's functioning as a school, and we were ranked 2nd in the state for life safety issues. I think that the story just continues to be replayed, and I see a real need to move forward with something on the ballot in March. I think GMS is kind of at a critical point in time in some of the classrooms, and I think that education is suffering and support for students is suffering, and I think it is beneficial for the district, and I understand that point of view moving forward. To me, we need to get moving.
I think, to address your point, I think that what's important and what we have to pay attention to with respect to GMS is what some of the feedback has been as to why, things didn't pass, right? And so obviously cost is one element of that. But one thing that we have been accused of is not having enough information, enough relevant information. And one thing that I personally feel about the Turner report is it is a very, very in-depth report that none of us, well, I don't know, I won't speak for you guys. I was not, here when that was conducted, right? So there is no opportunity that I'm aware of for us to really dig into that with them, right? That's already completed. And I think that what we have in front of us is an opportunity for something to dig into. I also think, I understand where you're coming from, but I can tell you that there's practically no way we're gonna have a fully baked proposal for the ballot in March.
understand.
right? So,
Yep. My other reservation comes from, just how many different experts do we need to have to look at this problem before people begin to see that, what every study has come to the same conclusion.
I get
So
that for
that's my
GMS.
frustration.
The value of this
Mhm.
is tell me what we need to be thinking about for CHS.
Yeah, I
Right.
understand that as well.
Yeah.
And it's a long-range plan. We've always been sort of behind the eight ball when we have to do repairs to the schools because we don't have a long-range plan for maintenance.
I understand
And we
that
need
as
to
well.
get in front of that, and I think this report would help us have a 20 or 25-year plan when we need to do a roof or HVAC, that, and we can plan for that for the taxpayer, so we're not every year coming to the town, every year we need $5 million for this. We set that money aside as we go forward.
Thank you.
Right. So with that, any other board discussion?
No, I mean, in terms of violation of policy, it very clearly sets out an exception that says any other purchases deemed to be within the best interests of the district and approved by the board. And so I think the board has spoken in saying that they believe it's in the best interests, and I think the board has approved it already, which is why it's here for public hearing. And so that exception allows it to be, so we're not in violation of our own policy. Again, if we had all the time in the world to put out to bid every single project that we do, and I think we put out to bid almost all of them, really, we really try hard to gather that information. This is one where I am comfortable with the timeline. I also think it's being done in coordination with several other reviews of our buildings at the same time, and having the view of it from on-site, in-site, having the view of it from the state and from our own fire code, who is also, right, our
Yeah, so
local.
we're talking about this later, but we have our completed health inspections. We'll talk about that. And just to tie this together. So I'm going to summarize, I'll get into this more when we get to it. But for example, in both CHS and GMS, ceiling tiles all over the place need to be replaced because they're stained, because something's leaking on it, right? The health inspector can't specifically say it's because the roof is the problem, but the roof is the problem, right? That's where the leaks are coming into. And it's a problem not just in one classroom, one section of the roof, it's all over the place, right? So we need to know factually that the roof is the problem. We can assume the roof is the problem based upon the ceiling tile part of it, but it would be very, very helpful if someone came in, did an assessment, and recognized that the roof is the problem, or it's this HVAC system, or whatever the thing is, because that's what we're speculating, but we don't have that as factual information.
So, to be clear, I plan to vote in favor of this with, this expense and this expenditure. But it is with great reservations, and I do hope that the board continues to, I hope the board considers this kind of the last time that we invest taxpayer dollars into studying.
Yeah.
In order to come up with a long-range plan.
Yeah, and I think that's the ultimate goal.
I've lived here for 20 years, and we have been long-range planning for, something to be done with the elementary school for 20 years, and, we need to move forward.
I think, we're trying, with the FIC, we're trying to take a little bit of a different approach than we have in the past by having a very large group of community members involved. And my expectation would be that we would take this information and we would create a roadmap that, if us board members are not reelected at some point or don't run again, that there is a clear roadmap to be passed on. I think that's been one of the biggest problems in this town, is that there's every time something changes over completely, it's lost, right? And we need to make sure that that's not the case.
Okay. With that, I think I'll call the question, right?
No,
Well, he has more feedback.
Oh,
I think.
you have more feedback
Yes.
on this topic?
on this topic.
Okay.
That was point one. Second one is, I agree with Ms. Harrison that this is a duplication effort, and I would argue completely the opposite. The Turner Report is exactly what we need to look at, and it is relevant today just as much as it was written in 2017. In fact, one of the things that was brought up in arguing against the Turner Report is, it didn't include roof for GMS. Well, that's not true. The report notes that the roof at GMS in 2017 has a life expectancy estimated at the time of 8 years. So where are we now? Exactly where we just talked about. So this report has all the things in it we need. Look at it. And it looks at all three schools and does exactly what we just talked about. In fact, the numbers that I passed out to you, and hopefully we actually get a chance to talk this in the FIC, but I wanted to bring this to your attention, because there's a spreadsheet I sent out. And I could spend a whole hour talking about the.
Yeah, let's not get into all this
And I
because
won't.
that's really not.
I won't, with the exception, and I want to call your attention to the LMS major items. And the last item in that grouping is titled Replace HVA System. And these numbers are from the Turner Report. When it was done originally, the estimate for that was $13,365,000. The escalation factor is 1.45, and that's based on the Federal Price Product Index, which the consultant that we've used uses the same factor for adjustments. Factoring that into 2024 dollars, that number today would be $1.979,350,000. So, as a fact checked on that, I went back into the LMS project that was recently authorized in 2022. And that's on the second sheet. I call your attention to the first column and the first grouping of numbers. And its title is Replace Existing System with Oil. And that is to replace the entire LMS system. And in here, they estimate $1,580,000, which is lower than the escalated numbers out of the Turner Report. So, the Turner Report is still relevant. The numbers would be conservative if we use these numbers escalated as I have in here. And quite truthfully, if we had done what the Turner Report said here, we would have fixed all three schools and brought them up to a state of good repair for less than what we just spent on LMS alone. The answer is in this document right here already, and I'm a little tired, and I agree with Ms. Harrison that we have documents and apparently we don't use them. So the point being is the repair cost is far less than anything we've been talking about. And if you look at every element that's in here, and every element that will be looked at in the on-site if you do it, that will get us back restoring it and repairing it. What I was disappointed last time when you talked about the survey, this question to repair LMS is not on the survey. It was specifically precluded. The term renovations there, that's $26 million. Renovation right now is estimated out of the Turner Report to be $3.5 million, which includes a sprinkler system.
Which also doesn't address any of our educational needs, which is part of the reason why the FIC has not moved forward with that at this point, right? That's something that we're addressing. Also, I mean, I want to just ask you, because a couple minutes ago you said, I'm in favor of this. I just want it to be sourced to multiple places. And now what you're saying is, I'm not in favor of this because the Turner Report is what we should actually be using, and this is a waste of money. So I'm a little confused as to what you're, like, which way you're leaning on this. I'm opposed to going forward with it simply because I think you're violating your policy, and you know what the other issue I have with you're violating your policy. And to me, it is, that's why I'm opposed to doing it. I voted for it if in fact we had gone out and they had been the recommended firm. I believe, actually, that they will come in and support and essentially parallel what's in this report here. So I'm not opposed to doing it for additional information. Is that clear then? Yep.
The point being is we've already had this information, to your point. We've had it since 2017. In fact, if you go back through every document, it's already been there. And I will state one last thing, is none of the documents anywhere say there's any structural problem, none, in any of the buildings. Structural. Structural. Do we need to fix them? Do we need to repair them? Yes. And I'm sorry, one last point, and I'll be done. The fixed cost in relation to renovation is $3.5 million compared to $26 million is the latest estimate we have for renovation, which is a gut job, essentially taking the building back to bare walls. The repair is 15% of that estimate, and it'll get you back, and the school will look the same, and it will function the same. Now, to your point, we need to look at space, and the answer to that is in here. This is the enrollment estimate, which projects the enrollment will continue to go down. So, what we need to do is, as we talked about, potentially move some classes around and fix up GMS so it functions the way it's supposed to. Now, it's safe. You can add a sprinkler system to it if you want, make it comfortable, and go forward. So, with that, I thank you.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Any other board discussion? Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
What's the total amount?
$31,000.
I'll make a motion to approve the expenditure of $31,000 to retain on-site insight for capital needs assessments for GMS, LMS, CHS, to be paid out of the
Capital
capital
Improvement Expendable Trust Fund.
Capital Improvement Expendable Trust Fund.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
A second.
Okay, motion by Mr. Shoemaker, second by Ms. Ames. Further discussion? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstained? That carries 5-0-0. All right. With that, we will now close our public hearing and move into our regular meeting agenda. And with that, we have review and revision of agenda items. Any other board members or any board members like to change any agenda items this evening? Okay, hearing none. We're going to move into consent agenda. Any items off consent the board members would like to talk about tonight?
Nope.
Nope. Okay, hearing none, we'll move into a summary of non-public actions from September 4th, 2024. Mr. Shoemaker motion to approve the August 21st, 2024 meeting minutes. Ms. Ames second the motion. The motion passed 5-0-0. And then Mr. Shoemaker motion to approve the nomination of Mitchell Roy as CHS case manager. Ms. Harrison seconded the motion, and that motion passed 5-0-0. Moving right along on the agenda, we have presentations and recognitions tonight, and we have a large crowd from LMS, which we welcome to tonight's meeting. And we'll turn it over to Principal Grantham to get us kicked off.
We're going to hype up this meeting right now.
Yeah, I gotta put my shirt on.
Wait, we got to get a picture of Mr.
My goodness.
Fantastic students. Come on up, guys.
I know, GMS put me on the spot last night.
They did. We're going to have you stay with our students, so it'll be even better. Just saying. Not that anything is ever a competition.
Never a competition.
You're going to stand with our students. So we would like to begin tonight by introducing some fantabulous student leaders. You've seen some of these faces at the table before, but you haven't seen their new swag. So I'm going to ask you guys to turn around and model your back your swag for the cameras and for our school board. So
All right.
Our entire staff and our student leadership group have all got these really loud and proud shirts about we're proud to have a place that we're happy to be part of. We're proud to have a place where what matters? Kindness. Across the board. So we'll go ahead through our little presentation here. I will introduce, this is Megan Glod. She is our C3PO Student Council Advisor, and Emily McDonald, who is one of our school counselors, and also helping out with C3PO Student Council this year. So I'll let you guys take the lead and I'll support you any way you need to. We'll go through what you have here, Ms. Glod.
Yeah, of course. Girls, why don't you just tell who you are and how long you've been in student council?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Like, I'm Paige Boyd.
I'm Paige Boyd. I'm an 8th grader in student council, and my first year was last year. I'm Madison DeRoges. I'm in 8th grade, and my first year of student council was last year.
I'm McNally Burns. I'm in 8th grade, and this is my first year.
I'm Macklin Birds. I'm in 6th grade, and this is my 2nd year.
Why do we do C3PO Student Council? What's our purpose?
To promote kindness and make
Can you guys kind of walk up to the, I'm sure you're not picking up the microphone that way, make sure you're nice and loud, project.
You can sit down if you want.
Yeah, you can sit if you want. We can pull up chairs.
to make the school a better place.
Do you guys want to sit?
Do you want to sit?
Do you want to sit so we can pull chairs for you?
You don't want to get comfortable here.
So before we go to the next one really quickly, can you go back to the previous one?
Yeah.
Who wants to talk about this night? What was new this year that was super positive and we were really proud of as student leaders? Maddie or Macklin?
We had some kids from C3PO and Student Council go to open house and like help like parents get to the next classes as like tour guides.
And they were so proactive and positive and were helpful. We had so much positive feedback, both through emails to the principal, posts on Facebook. It was really such a nice turnaround. I literally have goosebumps when I'm talking about it because it was great to see their faces. Parents knew that they were experts in how to navigate the building. It was pretty awesome.
You were easy to find.
What have we done in the past, guys? Maddie?
You haven't talked.
Well, I know the cereal box challenge, right?
Right, yeah. I put that as the last one, because that was the viral one.
What's kindness ducks?
Tell me about the ducks.
Yeah.
Okay, so during lunch, we were doing a sale for ducks. And
Thank you.
yeah.
Yep, small. Not actually
And with every duck that you bought, you also wrote a kind note to one of your friends. So when they received it, they got a note from their friends saying how like awesome it was just to be with them.
And then what did you do for Valentine's Day? Do you remember?
For Valentine's Day, we was it the?
It was kind of the same thing.
The
Yeah.
ring pop
Right.
things, the
Yeah.
ring pops. We sold ring pops this time, and you wrote notes as well, and so they were quite similar, just with different things you're giving out.
What did we do with the funds from all of those things we raised? Because there was a purpose behind those funds.
We
The peanut gallery.
we were trying. So you know how in LMS you have those little rooms that are inside the school, but there's doors leading outside. We wanted to make like an outdoor classroom, and with that money we got we were able to get a picnic table, so like classes can go out there or have lunch.
The picnic tables were donated by the Veterans Association,
Oh, yeah.
which again, we want to say thank you to our veterans for their amazing partnership with us. Well, we got the bench.
Yeah.
So it says LMS Student Council, it says Kindness Matters, it says 2024. So we're hoping to continue to add to that outdoor classroom space as we go on.
Nice.
Yeah, do you want to show the bench?
Mr. Sullivan, of course, has pictures of the bench.
I was student council last year, so.
What was the cereal box challenge? Because I wasn't here last year.
That is a Mr. Sullivan.
Way to set that one up.
All right, so you can tell them what the cereal box challenge was.
So the cereal box challenge was where we got like boxes of cereal from students, and we set them up in like a domino like chain reaction, and we sort of made it into like a contest. So whichever like best class brought in the most boxes, they got a pizza party.
Was it empty boxes or full boxes?
Full boxes.
Okay.
And just to brag, 7th grade won.
Just to brag. She was a 7th grader last year.
But it went all the way down our hallway and
Nice.
dropped into our gymnasium.
Yeah.
So it was a significant amount of
And what was the meaning of the cereal boxes?
The domino like chain reaction, it was supposed to be like kindness like going throughout the whole entire school.
Yeah.
And what did we do with cereal boxes after we played dominoes with them?
We donated them to the Litchfield Food Bank.
Well, we supplied cereal for like 3 different school banks, right?
Yeah, it was like 4 different towns.
Yeah,
They had to take 2 different car truck trips to actually bring those cereal boxes over.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
And what's pretty cool about our little town, our little school, Litchfield Middle School, started this challenge, and what's happened?
It became a chain effect and other schools are doing it.
Across the country. I just got an email this morning from 3 new schools that are taking the challenge for October this year. So even though you guys did it last year and you have new ideas for coming up this year, it's pretty cool that our little cereal boxes are still
And I
going.
heard it made it to Alaska.
Yeah, it did.
Right? So, coast to coast.
Coast to coast. You know, the internet's an amazing thing, where that can get picked up. It was actually, we have a social emotional learning platform that we're using this year called Kakori. And Kakori saw our video and they actually posted it on their national site. So that's how it's getting traction right now for what we're doing. So it's pretty cool. We're pretty proud of ourselves, aren't we?
It's awesome.
All right, keep going. What's next?
It's October!
We have a great group of kids this year in student council. I would say we have close to 45 students this year. We have a very large population of 5th graders. So we're really working on making sure that those students who have been in student council take more of a leadership role and are serving more as mentors, as you can see them here today. So we are working on Socktober. Does anyone want to talk about why we're doing that?
How about you, McNally?
This is when you They've actually been really good. I'm really proud of both. Great job.
Yes, you're doing okay.
You can read.
Why me? McNally, what do you want me to say?
So it's
So what do we gotta do for Socktober?
Right?
Are we donating socks? Are we wearing
Talk
them? What are
about
we
your
gonna
socks. Like, talk about what they symbolize for you.
Nike socks.
They have, but why do you wear Nike socks?
Because they're cool.
There you go.
That's part of your unique.
So what are we doing with socks for the month of October?
We're gonna like wear socks on one specific day, and then people are also gonna bring in like non-used socks, and we're gonna donate them as well.
Who are we donating them to?
The veterans and the homeless.
That's great.
Awesome. So we're going to collect socks, see how many socks we can collect, and then we're going to have in the end of October is what?
Crazy sock.
Well, we are going to have Crazy Sock Day, but also, ready? I'm going to try to say it. Red Ribbon Week. I have to say it very slowly.
It's a tongue twister.
And so one of the ideas that came up with Red Ribbon Week was something about socking, you know, like kick a sock to drugs, something along those lines. So we're going to bring the 2 events together, and that will be our culminating event.
So we'll have a Spirit Week at the end of October as part of Red Ribbon Week, and Crazy Sock Day will be part of it. So we foresee talking about students either coming together in wearing the same socks, like we see here at the group here with their cool short Nike socks, which are part of the middle school uniform, or the individuality that socks can bring. Do you like funky socks, tall socks, short socks, no socks, as I'm not wearing socks today, but everybody has their own person, their personality, and that being able to express your individuality through the socks you're wearing, or you're being part of a group.
Seeing since the superintendent is all about LMS, I'm really looking forward to seeing what the superintendent wears for socks.
I actually got a collection of kind of wacky socks over the years from being in education. Obviously, you get socks as gifts all the time, and they usually have. I got some math socks, some Harry Potter socks.
No cool Nike socks?
I don't think I'm cool enough for the Nike socks. I got the I'm old now, the support socks.
So,
yeah.
One more, next slide. Is there one more?
I think that's
Or is that it? Oh, so can you skip back one then, because we missed one message that we wanted, 2 more. There we go. What were you doing on the night of open house besides giving the tours? What were you helping with? Because I think this is the last and important thing we wanted to share.
We're reading a book in Advisory Best, Post-it, and we put Post-it notes on the lockers to promote the book that we're reading, and the parents that were walking around, if they were, because the Spanish teacher wasn't here, so they had free time, and so they could just write little kind notes on the lockers of just lockers, or if they knew their kid's locker, they could put something like, "Great job, Jimmy," or something.
Have a great day. So it was really cool the next morning to walk in, and those notes are still there now, and just see from families that message of positivity continuing throughout our building. Any questions for our fabulous student leaders?
Great job, all.
Very nice.
Mr. O'Connell, can we borrow you up here for a quick photo op?
You didn't tell them about the shirts, how each one is unique.
Each one is unique.
Yeah.
So if you really look, as you take a look and go, wow, those are all the same wacko tie-dye shirt, they're not. They all were actually tied off and colored just a little bit differently. Julie, can I have you be the photographer? Okay, give 2 thumbs up, everybody.
Thumbs up.
All right. And wait, now we're going to point at the superintendent. Ready? You ready to point at the superintendent?
Nice job.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Can't wait for the social media posts. Excellent job, you guys.
So do I. Okay.
Good job, ladies.
Thanks for coming, everybody.
Thank you very much for having us.
No.
I want to make sure you two get them, okay?
All right, excellent. Moving right on with our agenda tonight, we have a presentation on an international student travel trip for spring break 2026.
Yeah, so I'm going to have Jake and Jen come up to help present this, but essentially Jen proposed a language trip to Spain for April 2026, so not this school year, but the next school year. But with international trips, there's so much planning that goes involved into obviously the financial implications of that. It's usually good to have it as, you know, a Christmas gift or something like that for kids if they intend to go on it. So we like to get this approved way ahead of the game. So I'm going to turn it over to Jen and Jake.
All right, thank you so much for having us. My name is Jennifer, and I'm the new Spanish teacher at Campbell High School. And one of the things that I love to do is actually bring the world into my language classroom and expose students to opportunities to travel and learn about other cultures. And since 2015, I've been leading student travel abroad trips to all sorts of places: Central and South America, Europe, Africa. I just took a group of 30 students to Europe and Africa this summer. And so I'd like to propose a trip to northern Spain for April of 2026. This would be during spring break, so April 25th through May 3rd. The students would not be missing any school days. This would be for Campbell High School students. And we are proposing to fly into Madrid. There's several cities on the itinerary. We have Madrid, Segovia, Toledo, Barcelona, Burgos. They're going to have an opportunity to go see the Royal Palace, the Guggenheim Museum, one of Picasso's famous artworks, Guernica, in the museum at the Reina Sofia, which is in Madrid. They'll go to a flamenco show. We'll have a tapas dinner, a paella dinner. Those are just some of the things that are on the agenda. So the trip is 9 days, and I always do these trips through an organization depending on the purpose of the trip. So for this particular one, I would be going with Explorca. I'm very familiar with the itinerary. We actually went with them to our Europe and Africa trip this past summer, so I'm pretty familiar with with most of the itinerary in Spain. But they do offer a 24/7 program director who will be with us the entire time. We also have a bus driver who will be with us for in-country transport by ground. So the cost of the trip is approximately $4,100. That would include all of the hotel, round-trip flights, ground transportation, the meals for dinner and breakfast, tips for local guides and tour bus drivers who are local. The only thing that it doesn't provide would, of course, be passport fees and any checked baggage fees, things like that. Also, too, we're responsible for paying for the round-trip transportation to and from Boston Airport, which is where we would be flying from. As far as fundraising for the trip, that's something that I personally do not handle because it can sometimes get a little messy with the funds and trying to figure out who we need to divvy up the funds to. So the kids are definitely welcome with their parents to host any sort of fundraiser that they would like and raise funds for the trip. There's also opportunities. I know Explorica has a scholarship program, as well as I believe they have some financial aid for students who might possibly present a need. And then, of course, they also have it's similar to a GoFundMe type of page where students can send out their link to family and friends and, hey, instead of, a Christmas gift, I'd like maybe money in my fund to help offset my expenses. So there's definitely creative ways that, we can address in order to raise funds for these trips. One of the things that I found is that students welcome these types of opportunities, and a lot of my students in the past have actually gone and got jobs and had paid for their entire trip themselves, or at least half. So they've gone half and half with their parents or guardians. So any questions?
Is there a minimum number of people that need to sign up for the trip?
Great question. Yes. For this particular trip, it will be 30. We're allowed 6 chaperones per, 6 students per chaperone. So I would be leading the trip. We will have at least 1 administrator with us, if not 2.
Mr. G and I are currently fighting over who gets to go, so.
And then we'll also have, depending on the number of students, 1 or 2 other staff members. We're limiting it to, sorry, I'm getting a cold here, limiting it to 2 staff members, just because a lot of parents think, oh, Spain, how great, and then they want to hop on the bandwagon, and before you know it, we've got this really huge group. And so this is really a great opportunity for students to gain some independence and learn how to navigate situations themselves, in addition to exposing them to other cultures and other languages. And I say languages because actually Spanish is not the only language spoken in Spain. The region that we're going to, they're also going to be exposed to Catalan. But it's also an opportunity for them to learn important life skills. They're going to learn how to navigate through an airport. They're going to learn how to order from a menu properly at a restaurant. They're going to learn hotel and elevator etiquette, how to exchange money. Those are just a few of the things that they can get as important life skills through this experience.
I assume the registration deadline will be extended from beyond tomorrow.
Absolutely. Yes, actually, if the board does allow us to continue with the proposal of this trip, the first thing that we would do is we would call a parent-guardian meeting along with the students. I have a formal presentation for them, and then there would be information provided to them about how to sign up and register. Registration is open to all Campbell High School students, so any Campbell High School student who is a freshman, sophomore, junior, or senior during the school year of 2025 to 2026 would be eligible for the trip. And let's see, we would be, lost my train of thought. So they would be eligible for the trip, and then we would walk them through the registration process and help them get registered. And the great thing about these companies, they handle all the money and the payments. The school has nothing to do with that. So they would establish an account with Explorica, and they can either pay for the trip up front, they can pay it in 4 equal installments, they can pay it monthly, however is best for their budget.
think I'm in trouble with this one. I have a 9th grader that loves Spanish.
Oh, boy.
I will say as well, so Jen presented this to Dana and I the other day, and I scheduled like a quick 15-minute meeting, and I'll say it lasted much longer. Jen has done this so many times, I was like, but what if this came up? And she had 6 stories of something that popped up on a trip and what they did to overcome. So one of the most organized people I've ever talked to when it comes to international trips like this. So it had the absolute full support of Dana and myself as well.
There was another trip that the board discussed, I don't know, 6 months ago anyways, right? And there were concerns about, or the board went back and asked for additional details. I just want to make sure we're following our past practice with these types of requests for trip approvals. What other considerations, and I'm looking to some other members who've been part of this.
So
I do have one more question. I am not a world traveler in any outside of the country travel.
Absolutely.
Was while I was young enough to not really think about these things. But my understanding is when you travel internationally, you have to pay mind to like health insurance, not potentially being.
I'm so glad you asked that. Okay, so Explorica has.
I asked about like emergencies and that sort of thing.
Yes.
She had 6 stories about it.
So Explorica does have a travel plus protection plan. It is extra. However, Explorica is insured for each traveler well over $1 million. They provide 24/7 support for any type of emergency that should come up, whether it's an illness or a lost passport, trip cancellation fees refunded due to maybe, I don't know, a strike or maybe a weather event, whatever you could imagine that could come up. The other thing too is that I encourage my students to register with the State Department. Really, anybody who travels should always be doing that because it allows your embassies to know exactly where you're going to be, on which day, at which hotel. And in the event that there is something that happens in that country, the embassy will know exactly where you're located and they can ensure that you are safely transported out of the country. The other thing that the State Department has, they also have a link to get international travel insurance that goes above and beyond what Explorica offers. I know this summer when we went, a lot of people took out that insurance. It's very cost effective. I think it's a little over $100 per person, but it insures you up to, I believe it's $2 or $3 million, and it allows for emergency evacuation, emergency medical care, emergency hospitalization, surgeries, you name it.
Yeah, I would just want to make sure if we can forward this, that people understand as an option. Yeah. Well, I understand that it's not like you can just go hand your Blue Cross Blue Shield card in.
Right. The other thing too, along that vein, is that traveling to Europe, obviously the EU has a lot of regulations on medications that are not necessarily we think about that we use every day, but are probably either prohibited or illegal there. And so we worked in conjunction, or we have with the school nurse, to go through a list of everybody's medication and make sure that we have not only the doctor's prescription forms, but also the original containers. And that is also the purpose of having chaperones per 6 kids, because each chaperone leads their own small group for attendance checks, hotel checks in the room. We do night checks, morning checks. We also administer medication per the nurse's orders if somebody needs medication. I've had everybody on trips who have been diabetic to epileptic to you name it. We had medications for them and a schedule, and each of the chaperones administered it, signed their form, and we gave it back to the nurse when we were done.
So what happens if people start paying in and for whatever reason you don't get 30 kids, which I think you'll easily get more than 30 kids to go? What happens to the people that have paid into it? How do they get their money back? Is it 100% refundable? Is there a drop dead date that you have?
No. So as long as we have at least 6 kids, we're good to go.
So what was the 30 then?
The 30 is the limit. That's the number that we will take.
Oh, okay, sorry.
And the reason I say that is because we are traveling to Europe, and especially after COVID, people have started traveling again. I'm sure you've heard on the news that, places that are being inundated by tourists are not necessarily happy about that. And so one of the things that a lot of these countries have started doing is that they are regulating the number of tourists that come into sites. You have specific times that you have to be there. There's rules on how many people in a group. And so that's one of the reasons why we're making sure that we don't accept any more than 30 students. And we're doing it on a first come, first served basis. So if you want to go, you got to sign up soon.
I think the last time we discussed a trip, when we were bringing up concerns, it was because it was during actual educational time, and we had to make sure that there was the right amount of educational value, right? For
Boston last
wasn't
year,
that what
right?
we dealt with last year when we were having a long discussion about it?
The senior trip, maybe?
That was the senior trip to Boston, yeah.
But we were concerned about missing education, or the days qualifying as educational days.
I was thinking more of the Universal trip.
Yeah, the Universal trip is during February break,
vacation.
and so we're not missing any education or school days at that time either. And this one wouldn't either, it's during break.
I have two questions. One was, and I'm looking to Tina because I think she's been on it the longest. When was the last international trip?
A long time ago.
Has there been one in the last? There hasn't been one since I've been on the board.
No, I don't think.
But I was also on the board post-COVID, so I don't think a lot of people traveled since then.
I think the last big trip that the high school did was to Hawaii. I don't think we've done an international trip.
Okay.
As long as I've been on the board, anyway.
And then second question, you had indicated that this was open to students who would be at Campbell High School 25 for that year. So is this being open to 8th graders? Or?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Right, because they are up and coming to Campbell and they'll be eligible. Okay. So it would be during their freshman year.
Okay.
So you're in trouble too.
I'm in trouble too.
If you just wait till after the meeting, you'll get checks from Andrew.
All right, any other board discussion on this one?
No.
Okay, are we prepared to vote this evening on this? Yep. Any motions?
I'll make a motion to approve the 2025-2026 trip to Spain.
We have a motion by Mr. Plansky, second by Mr. Shoemaker. Additional discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 5-0-0. Thank you for the thorough presentation.
All right. Open your checkbooks.
That is not how you end that.
I think your kids will tell you.
Maybe she's not watching the meeting.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night. Next up, we have the student rep report, but I don't see any student reps here this evening, so.
Hopefully next meeting.
Next meeting, okay.
They did elections this week, so we have them.
Yes.
Just don't know if they're ready to present quite yet. So.
Okay, all right, so stay tuned on that. Next up is community comment on agenda items. This is public input number 1 of 2 for the evening. Any community members would like to speak to the board tonight? Hearing none, we'll have a second round of community input towards the end of our meeting this evening. Turning it over to Vice Chair Ames for correspondence.
Thank you very much. On September 4th, Matt Shoemaker emailed the board circulating the draft FIC survey for our review. Also on September 4th, the superintendent emailed the board circulating the draft 2024 to 2027 superintendent goals. On September 6th, the superintendent emailed the board providing notice of a public records request from an investigative reporter regarding transgender policies and guidelines. On September 6th, Jan Sullivan sent an email to the board circulating draft public and non-public minutes from September 4th. On September 7th, Mr. Plansky sent a text message to the board regarding recycled percussion would be coming to town and would they be using school property. There were responses by Andrew Cutter, Tina Harrison, and the superintendent, and the consensus was it was a different event. On September 9th, Matt Shoemaker emailed the board expressing concern from the FIC committee regarding the shortened deadline for the survey and requesting that the board consider extending it. There were responses on the email from Andrew Cutter, Heidi Ames, Peter Polanski, and the superintendent. Mr. Cutter then also sent a text message to the board asking them to view the email regarding extending that deadline, and there were responses on the text messages from Tina Harrison, Matt Shoemaker, Andrew Cutter, Heidi Ames, Peter Polanski, and the superintendent. On September 10th, the superintendent emailed the board circulating an update regarding the first student negotiations with the drivers union. On September 11th, Tina Harrison sent a text message to the board requesting input on a date for the New Hampshire School Funding Fairness presentation. There were responses from Mr. Cutter, Mr. Shoemaker, and myself, and the consensus was October 23rd, 2024. On September 11th, Mr. Shoemaker emailed the board, text messaged the board requesting board authorization for $500 for materials to facilitate the FIC survey. Andrew Cutter responded that that would require a public discussion and vote. On September 13th, Ann Inamorati emailed the board circulating the manifest. On September 13th, Renee Burgess emailed the board circulating the draft agenda for tonight's meeting. On September 14th, Jan Sullivan emailed the board resending the non-public minutes from September 4th. On September 16th, the superintendent emailed the board circulating a request from Mr. O'Glennis to view the on-site insight proposal. There were responses from Mr. Shoemaker, the superintendent, Mr. Polanski, and Ms. Harrison, and the consensus was to make it publicly available as soon as possible. On September 16th, the superintendent sent a text message to the board regarding a confidential student discipline issue, and there were responses from Ms. Harrison, the superintendent, Mr. Shoemaker, myself, and Mr. Polanski. On September 17th, Chris LaFleur, a resident, emailed the board voicing his opinion regarding the outreach survey and not reusing prior email lists as a way of advertising. On September 17th, Ann Inamorati emailed the board circulating the credit card manifest for the board review tonight. And that brings us up to date, I believe.
All right. Yes, thank you very much for the report out. We'll shift gears and move into general business tonight and turn it over to Superintendent O'Connell to get us going.
Yeah. First thing is just board meeting format. So just a couple of notes about it just to make you aware. I hope you're okay. We're going to adjust things a little bit. You saw students in front of you today. We're hoping to make that every meeting, having a small student group do some sort of presentation from one of the schools to kind of highlight the great things kind of going on in the schools. Thankfully, they had something up their sleeve ready, so when I sprung it on the principals, Jen could step up and do it. And then hopefully we're going to have a different group from either elementary or high school. They're now fighting over it. Right? Oh, they left. Oh, that's too bad.
Wait, I can do this now.
For the first one in October, and just to highlight, the wonderful work that the kids are doing in the schools and everything. The other thing is we've promoted Sarah, Dr. Taylor, to the adult table up here. I hope that's okay. And kind of gave her own section in kind of the meeting. My section, Julie's section is the business, and then Sarah's for CIA and stuff like that. Sarah's coming to every meeting. She's hard at work doing a bunch of stuff related to curriculum and assessment and instruction. So to keep the board informed, you see it all over our goals. We figure we'll just make her own section, and so she can kind of provide updates as
great. So you're going to be standing part of the meeting every meeting.
Yeah.
I love that because that really turns the focus to curriculum, which is where it needs to be. So
yeah. So those are just slight changes to the format. Want to make you aware, make sure you're comfortable with those, and just kind of let you know. So.
Okay.
Right.
The next was in case we needed any follow-up from our public hearing earlier tonight. I wanted to leave that on the agenda. You've already moved forward with approving us moving forward with on-site insight, so I don't think there's anything more to discuss there, so we can move forward from there. The next thing is the health inspections for the 3 schools. We got that from the health inspector. We passed at all 3 schools. That's the quick answer of it, so we can continue to run school, which is always a relief. We do have a list of things that we need to kind of get on. They range from things like ceiling tiles, which I mentioned earlier, railings being splintered or needing to be replaced on outdoor ramps, those type of things. For example, GMS, the restroom in the nurse's office is an ADA compliant, so we need to add some additional handles and everything like that. Julie did a really nice job and created kind of a punch list for us for all 3 schools. We need to have all those things taken care of by April 1st. They'll come again around that time to do a re-inspection to make sure that we follow through on all their recommendations. I gave you links to the health inspections there if you want to read it. It's a lot of checking yes and no buttons on whether, or slots on whether or not things are being done, and then a summary of the list of things that we need to kind of work on as we kind of go through. So Julie will work with Dave and the facilities team to kind of take care of everything, so we stay in line with that. We now have to take these health inspections, submit them to the state as part of that facility renewal process. This is part 2 of that process. They will come now, next, they'll schedule some sort of appointment. I don't know the time frame of that, but they will schedule, they just turned over their administrator for facilities at the state, so we'll see how that goes. So then they'll come in and then they'll do their inspection of the buildings as part of the renewal process this school year. So that'll be some time. But until then, that's where we're at with that stuff. Any questions?
I do on the LMS report, so I noticed multiple instances of leaks, which we've done extensive work.
Yeah, so these ones.
Part of that school?
Yep, this is good. So this is probably not roof related. The main ones are in like on joints of pipes, like in bathrooms and stuff like that. So a turn of the pipe, we need to cover it. Dave knows what to do. It's the special tape, I guess. You cover the leg where the 2 pipes meet and are locking, and some dripping is coming in from that. So he says you can get this special duct tape that seals it off and should solve the issue. But it's not a roof related issue. It's the condensation from the pipes up there and stuff.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions on the inspection reports? Health inspection reports? No. All right, moving into goals.
So we had a discussion last meeting about goals. So we updated essentially the SAU superintendent goals based on the feedback from the board. The feedback, a good chunk of it was putting more emphasis on curriculum, which we are happy to do, and we like working on that type of stuff, and adding some more information about the data we're going to collect relative to show how we're making progress in the curriculum and everything like that. So hopefully you got time to review. It's a lot longer than what you saw last time. We tried to really break it out into greater detail. So again, this is going to be, the SAU's goals, the SAU office, the superintendent's office, to do these for the next 3 years. The board needs to set their goals. It'd be lovely if we aligned or had the same or related, some of those things. So it's ultimately up to you what you want to do with goals, but if you feel comfortable having at least this framework as your own goals, we can move forward with that or go in a different direction. It's your will. So.
Yeah, I've had the opportunity to review. I love the thoroughness behind it. Thank you for the expanded details.
Yep.
I think just the open question to the board, it says everyone had a chance to actually review this and go through it.
Yep.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Yes. Excellent. I am completely fine with making these our board goals and completely aligning with the superintendent. I think they're very thorough and very aligned to what this board is trying to do as well.
Do we need a motion?
I will make a motion to approve the superintendent goals as the board goals for the next 3 years, 24 through 27.
I'll second.
Motion by myself, second by Ms. Ames. Additional discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstained, 500.
Thank you. If anyone's curious at home, I will send those out this weekend as far as my weekend message, and you can read it all.
Yeah, and those will be posted to the district website too, I'm
yeah,
sure.
We'll post it. Yep, definitely.
Okay, excellent. Anything else?
Well, I was going to mention lunch, but we talked about it before we got on air, but I will do it publicly here. Lunch at Campbell today was excellent. They had turkey cheddar, pickled apple, bacon paninis. They were incredible. We sold out and they had to make a bunch more, and then they sold out of that again. So I think everyone in the SAU went down to get one because they were really good. And I just want to give that shout out to Lauren and our crew here
Did
at
everyone eat
Campbell.
the carrots? That's the question.
Not everyone ate their carrots. I passed on the salad. I gotta be honest. When they asked me if I wanted the side salad, I'm like, no, that's a healthy sandwich. I don't. Yeah, there's fruit in there somewhere in there. So, just a quick shout out. Honestly, to all 3 CAFs, I've had the pleasure of, like I said, I would too. I warned them that I'd be making appearances in their kitchens, and they do an incredible job. Our cafeteria workers. So, shout out to them.
Awesome. Great update, and it did look yummy on the Facebook post. So, well done. All right, excellent. We'll shift gears into the BA report tonight.
All right. So I did attach the school board financials with the September reports updated for today. If there's any questions about any of the financials, please let me know.
No specific questions, just making sure transfers, there were no transfers, right?
So for transfers, right, I did add, let's see, the transfers over 500. Let me see.
So the custodial outsource is the ones that, in the speech path and all that, but I think those were already board approved. So I don't think there's any additional actions on that. Okay.
I did have, one thing that did come up, we do have a paraprofessional position that we're unable to hire for, but we do have a student that requires a one-to-one paraprofessional. So we would like to hire a contracted employee from Sunbelt Staffing, who is prepared to come and work for us, and therefore requiring a transfer of $57,915 from salaries and benefits to be transferred over to the special education contracted services.
How long of a period is that for?
For the school year.
Do we plan to continue to advertise for that position and fill it if we can? Okay. I'll make a motion to.
What happens if we fill the position? And then we have the other company in here?
I do need, I will take a look at the contract to find out the the termination of the contract, so I will do that.
Okay.
I'll let you know.
Yeah, because I mean, we're moving the money for the entire position over, so.
Okay.
Do we have any experience with this staffing agency?
It's a staffing agency that Sarah Pooler chose. I'm not sure if she has worked specifically with this vendor before. I can certainly get that information for you.
Just curious, I don't know, Ms. Harrison, if you have any?
I haven't, that's not my area.
I know, just knowledge of, no? Okay.
I know that Sarah spoke specifically with this person that was, to actually interviewed him just to see if he would be a good fit for this student. And she did feel like the person that we would be contracting would be a good fit.
Okay.
If you'd like, we can bring it to the next board meeting with contracts.
I don't want this to hinder those student services if this student really could benefit from this service. I don't want the student to have to wait additional time while the board kind of deliberates, right?
Right.
That's not a good situation for anybody.
Yeah, I mean, the likelihood of us hiring for this position is
slim.
Right.
Yep.
I'd be comfortable with moving forward. I just want to make sure that there's the ability of, if we were to hire someone in-house, that we can, a reasonable amount of time, 30 days or something, to be able to be out of the contract.
I mean, we've had this with each of these contracts. We've done some of this an out clause for whatever it is if you fill the positions. We're actually with the custodial, we have some applicants, so we might exercise that with the custodial services reduced.
Right, you have applicants?
Yeah, we do.
Fantastic.
We have a couple.
We
So
still
we
have
might.
7 pair positions to fill over, no, that's not needed anymore.
So if we approve it, would we approve it subject to condition that there is some sort of termination
Yeah.
provision up
That's
to?
what I would recommend, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm comfortable with that.
All right, do you want to make the motion then?
Heidi's working on it.
I started to make a motion on it.
All right.
What do you think what do you think is reasonable? We probably should provide some,
What do you mean?
in terms of Heidi was bringing up, okay, as long as there's some sort of reasonable termination provision, like what do we consider reasonable? 60, like no.
As long as there is an ability to back out of the
Yeah,
contract.
60 is like the standard we're seeing in all these contracts, so, yeah.
So I'll make a motion to approve a transfer of $57,915 for salaries and benefits to the special education contracted services for the hire of a one-to-one paraprofessional from Sunbelt Staffing, provided that there is a clause within the contract that we can exit the contract if we are to fill that position internally.
Second. Well stated. All right, additional discussion? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 500.
The other, another item I had was Impact Fire. We received a quote from them, actually the day that we were doing the health inspection at the high school. We had Impact Fire there doing some work to check on the existing fire system. We had
Is this going to address the buzz noise finally?
Yes.
Finally,
Yes.
on the second floor of that building?
That is what this is what it is.
Heard this?
No.
Yes.
No? You walk up Campbell on the second floor, right, and all of the fire alarms, they have a buzzing sound coming out of all the speakers. It's been there for years. And nobody's been able to figure out where the cross signal is that's causing this buzzing noise.
We would really like to figure it out.
Yes. So that is a big piece.
Sounds like I'm going to wire one down to the superintendent's office.
And And the other piece to it was that when we had our first fire drill, we realized that the SAU alarms were not working properly. Like there were a couple people who couldn't hear it at all in their office. So we need to address that. So I did attach the quote to do the work of all of that for, let's see, I think it's $9,178. So we have not gone forward with this. We wanted to make sure that you were okay with us moving forward with that.
Okay, and you definitely want to use the building and repairs?
Yes.
Or the operating budget to cover it?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay.
It just wasn't in our budget, but this is like, we gotta do this.
Right.
Yeah. We have the money. I don't wanna, we're just, yeah.
Okay.
Let everyone be aware.
All right, I'll make a motion to approve impact fire. What was the amount again? It was
$9,178.
for $9,178 to make the fixes to Campbell High School.
Second.
Motion by myself, second by Mr. Shoemaker. Additional discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstained, 500. Let's get that noise corrected.
How quickly will they be able to come in to do the work?
That's a good question. I'm not sure how quickly. I will find out what the timeline is.
Will they guarantee correcting that noise?
We've
We've had people look at this before.
So when we were doing it, time couldn't have been better because we were doing the health inspection and the captain was with us from fire and cornered the impact fire guy and said, "You are fixing this." So I think they got the message that this needs to be fixed. Yeah.
The other piece I had was copiers. One of the copiers at LMS and at the high school in the teacher's room have not been working properly, specifically the one at LMS. They were calling for service every single day since the start of the school year, and then it wasn't getting fixed. It was
seeing some LMS.
Yes.
Faculty,
causing a lot of
staff
frustration. For staff. So both of those copiers, the contract is expiring in May of this year. May of 25. So we did call to see if there was something that we could do to, swap out the machines a little sooner. So they were able to give us the same price that we've had for the last 5 years, moving forward for another 60-month lease for both machines. And I've attached both of those contracts. But those are things that we.
Yeah, I mean there's no budget changes. Yeah, so there's no changes there for us.
Correct.
Okay.
Can I just go back to it's not the transfer itself, but just in terms of the hiring, how many open paraprofessional positions are there right now in the district?
I have to.
Give us a sec. I think it's 19, but don't quote me. I'll pull it
At the
up.
high school?
In the district? Heidi? In the district?
Yeah, district, sorry.
12 at the high school.
21. I was close. Yeah.
I thought the high school was full at the beginning of the year.
No.
We are. We've been coming back and forth. We filled, we lost, we filled. We're coming back and forth. So they have 2 right now, like not in critical status, but we'd like to fill.
GMS?
GMS is at 7,
Okay.
and then GMS is at 12.
GMS is 12, LMS is 7.
LMS.
Oh, sorry. GMS, LMS is 7.
Okay.
I mean, we are interviewing. Like, if people are coming, we're hiring, but people sometimes get special ed
How are we
jobs.
on custodial staff? This is a tangent, I'm sorry.
What's that?
Custodial staff?
We have 2 that we're in the process of interviewing and checking out right now. That would be great if we could get them on, because then obviously we can adjust the contract with them. I would say at least one of them we feel really good about. The second one hopefully works out as well. But, just based on the first one, there was a reference to someone who works for us currently, so that is helpful, So hopefully we can continue to kind of fill in those slots as we go as well, so.
And even with hiring those 2 people, we have 5 open positions still.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
I have an update from Sarah if you guys want it. She's watching.
No.
Okay.
She said
Hi, Sarah.
She said that Sunbelt was a company that was used in the past, so she would like to continue the relationship with them, and that the 60-day termination was standard. So that should be
already in the contract. Perfect.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for that update.
Yep.
when I printed out the agenda, we also had solar, but I see solar removed now from, is there an update on solar? I'm gonna ask, so.
Yeah, we're trying to get an update. So we reached out to Kay.
Yep.
Kay was in Los Angeles, and Kay was supposed to back out to us this week and has not yet. So we're
Do I need
really,
to engage Kay again?
we will try ourselves again,
Okay.
see if we can get that done.
Cause that system should
Send in
be,
the enforcer over
that
here.
system should be operational. Is that system live yet?
It is not.
Okay, so that's a problem.
Yeah.
Right, and we need to get on top of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do need to start looking at what our recourse is under the contract.
Okay.
I think we should probably reach out to legal on that, have them look at it, because this is getting ridiculous now.
Yep.
And I think Kay needs to understand that we are beyond less than enthused on this, and,
Oh, she understands.
well, clearly not,
Yeah,
because
no, she does.
it's not lighting a fire. though.
No, it's not.
Right, so,
But, I mean, what Kay committed to when we met during the summer, certainly when we signed the contract addendum with the revised dates, I'm expecting and maybe it's there, I just haven't been behind LMS recently, a concrete pad to be put down. Not there. Okay, I'm expecting a container to be installed in the next month, by October, and that container with the battery backup system to be live by the end of the year.
I don't know if you want me to chime in on.
You go for it.
I'm not really here.
Yeah.
But, the other thing that we have the frustration of for our viewpoint is when we were standing there in the back doing the tour, the contractor there said, we're gonna need to go power off for 5 to 7 hours, and it was
Yes.
just coming out of a long weekend. Obviously, that's not an ideal circumstance now that school is well underway. So that communication, I sent out a request for information. I haven't seen anything back, and that was 2 weeks ago at this point.
Okay.
We'll confer with legal and be a little more
are we
aggressive.
continuing to are we making payments to Kay's company?
Well, it's an annual payment now under
Yeah.
the solar purchase agreement.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know if we had to pay separately for.
No, it's just a
It's a
solar.
power purchase agreement, so it should be the minimum.
It's the 97
Yep.
thereabout payment, yeah.
So it's penalizing her in the long run for not being up to date, but at the same token, it's frustrating.
Yeah, because these are already well revised dates and timelines that we agreed to, shook hands on. I'm happy to call Kate tomorrow.
We're on it.
Okay, all right. All right, well, thank you for that not so great update. Dr. Taylor, welcome.
Thank you. So tonight, just two things. So last year, GMS worked pretty hard on trying to elementary friendly the work study practices, because that rubric was pretty comprehensive for elementary students to understand. So they worked with the input of grade level teachers and came up with these work study practices. I looked at them. They are completely in line with what the middle and high school do, just with slight tweaks to wording. And the one major change was going to respect as opposed to using integrity. That's a very challenging word to try to explain to a 5-year-old. They'd like to change integrity to respect in Power School, and we're going to use the parentheses integrity so that that word, that vocabulary can be there and discussed as appropriate. And they can work towards that, and then when they go to LMS they'll see integrity and won't be like, well, what's that? They've never seen it before. But just really working on those respect factors. And then the rubric will be printed and attached to the report card so that parents could understand what the indicators are for each category. So just wanted to bring that forward to you guys for information. Don't know if you need approval.
Good to me. Do we need to approve these?
You don't need to approve these. We just want you to be aware, especially like they're coming home with report cards, just kind of to promote this and people know it's coming.
When I was on grading and reporting last year, I sat in on a lot of the GMS meetings, and they put a lot of time into trying to come up with the right
language.
Yeah, the right words, the right terminology, the right, setting the tone and whatnot for their younger learners. And so I think this captures it really well.
Yep, and they really did an awesome job keeping it aligned.
Yeah.
I was like, wow. So shout out to them for that, because that's not easy to do, So, thank you. And the last thing I have tonight, I just had to talk about the amazing experiences I had over these 2 days last week, and then Monday, CHS was my last one, but I went to each school and did curriculum and coffee. I was set up in one location for the whole day. I brought coffee and snacks for whoever wanted to stop in. They could stop in just to say hi and just kind of get to know each other a little bit more, bring whatever items they wanted to bring up. And there was a lot of traction on that. It was great. I learned a lot of what the teachers are needing, wanting, what they're looking for support. Got to meet a lot of great educators and just have really informal conversations that, weren't driven by an agenda or, just like sitting down and
Any initial themes out of those discussions?
curriculum alignment. Across the board, all schools, that was the largest trend, which came right out from when I was talking to you guys about the data. That was by far the largest. Please help, shout out. So, and then another one was just kind of looking at updated resources and what they have to work with in terms of instructional materials. So I'm excited to get in to work with teachers more. As I said last meeting, I have scheduled meetings already through the whole year at all 3 schools. And I have told everybody that I'm available for more time. They can invite me in as many times as they'd like. We have quite a bit of work to do, but it's good work, it's exciting work, and it's going to be very collaborative and building everything together. So I'm just really excited. I did send out a survey afterwards to each school to ask them for feedback, and I got a really nice response. I was planning on just doing one at the beginning because I'm going to meet with them every month, and I asked, would you like to see this again, because it was so well received, and everybody said yes. So I'll probably implement something similar probably once a quarter, so that we can continue to have these awesome conversations. It was very fulfilling for me to have the opportunity to have these discussions and meet with these awesome educators. So had to bring that and talk about that. So
that's great. Thank you for the update. Any questions for Dr. Taylor this evening?
Welcome to the big table.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Yeah, I think my only other thought is let's continue the conversation on the data, right, and the analysis and next steps too. Just piggybacking on our meeting from a couple of meetings ago at this point.
Yep.
Okay. All right, moving into public minutes of September 4th, 2024, as the board had the opportunity to review the minutes. Yes.
Yes.
Any motions?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from,
September 4th.
September 4th.
Motion by Mr. Shoemaker.
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Ames. Additional discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Minutes are passed 5-0-0. And I will turn it over for a plethora of policies tonight.
Yes, I'm going to turn it over to Tina because I was not able to be at this meeting. So this is all you.
So at our last policy meeting, I sat down with Mr. O'Connell and Mr. changes, and we reviewed, these are policies that came from NHSBA as required.
Yeah, they're up for review. So some of them have slight tweaks just to highlight changes of language, like, for example, the suicide prevention response one, updating the phone number that we're using as part of that, and those type of things.
So we just reviewed them and
yeah.
used the NHSBA language on all of them.
The only one, may I jump in?
Yes, go for
The only one I want to draw your attention to is the last one, CAB, access to school grounds. So we do have one change that is not highlighted in here, but we want to propose and ask permission for. If you go to that policy and go to page 5, which is actually in the procedures related to the policy, it has the ID access 6:15 for teachers and for a bulk of our staff. We would just like to slide that up to 6 a.m. We've had some teachers make a request to be able to come in starting at 6, so they get here a few minutes before 6:15. We do have custodians here at that time, so it's not that we have the buildings empty, but if that's okay, we would like to make that change.
Yeah. No issues.
But besides that, they're all bearing in the NHSA language. Thank you.
Okay, that's great news. Has the board had the opportunity to review the policies? Any concerns with any of the language in any of the policies presented tonight? Okay, I'll make a motion to blanket approve ACE, ACF, ADB, GBEC, ADC, GBCDR, IHBA, IHBA R1, JKAA, JLDBB, and ECAB for a first read.
I'll second.
All right. Can you repeat that motion, please?
No.
It's only fair after you seconded her long.
That's true, that's true. All right, so we have a motion and a second additional discussion for first read tonight. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstained, 500. We will have to repeat this for a second read at our next meeting.
Mark the tape.
All right, turning it over to a facilities update, please.
Oh, of course. So we've been meeting a lot, actually. We somehow have gotten off of the twice a month to like every other week. But it's been good. The last meeting was primarily focused on the survey and getting the survey out and figuring out how we were gonna, sort of deploy that and get responses. We had people from the FIC at the elections. They collected surveys there. And also the schools have sent out surveys via social media in as many different ways as they can. To date, I believe we're up to over 300 responses. Obviously, a long way to go. That's not a terribly large sampling, but it's still a good start. We are not analyzing data until it closes.
No emerging themes then, okay?
Right, yeah. We want to kind of preserve the integrity of the responses, and the more that we release stuff early, it just doesn't serve to benefit us or anyone. So that's our so again, nothing exciting to tell you about that other than the survey is out and it's.
And the survey table was well positioned at the Krispy Kreme table. You're getting traffic there.
Okay, that's good. Any questions for facilities tonight?
Wait, you gotta ask for something.
Oh, God, yeah. I almost forgot twice. In the interest of us getting, we discussed trying to get better visibility, right? We want to get as many people from town to respond to this as possible, especially people that are not tied into the schools. And so we are looking at a variety of methods, from yard signs to flyers with QR codes and stuff like that, and the committee is asking for the board to allocate up to $1,000 for us to be able to get that stuff.
It's $500 in your
text.
I have text that says 500.
I touched on that too.
If you look at the, I went back to them and said, before I go ask for this, make sure it's the number that we need, and they actually in the meeting started looking at like the yard signs. And we would hit that pretty quick. Yeah. So, and I mean, I have an email. I haven't seen if she responded to me, but I have an email into the town administrator because we have a list of places that we would like to put them, but I want to make sure that we can actually put them there. So, we certainly will try to not spend all of that money if we can avoid it, which I don't think we're going to hit that full amount. But
I mean, I think when we did the mailer for GMS last year, right, we were at 2,000, just over.
That's what we budgeted for. I don't think it came in that much, but
You could hit a mailer with a QR code to every house in town.
Yeah.
And a postcard.
Yeah, that has, been discussed as well.
You know what I mean? I mean, that is a sure way to get to everybody for
Well,
relatively.
Is it a sure way though?
Well, everyone with a mailing address.
But we've sent stuff out last year though, and people were like, I never got that.
Yeah.
But it is one more way of doing it. So there is I'm not familiar with the lingo, but there's a bit.ly, which is like the link that brings you to the survey. I do know that Mr. Mitchell has that on the board outside of GMS, although I don't know that anyone knows what it is. It just says, go look at this. So anyway, so for inquiring minds, they might actually.
As I drive by when we type that in.
Right.
Yeah, bit.l.
Yeah, it's just
So let me do
tiny
a plug, right? So for those watching the school board meeting tonight, right, this survey is the facility survey to get your thoughts specifically on our district buildings and our facilities for the school district. What we're looking for is your input about March, this past March, where there was a lot of feedback and a lot of passion about the new elementary school. And the votes behind the new elementary school were definitely a no vote. Tell us why. Is it because of the cost? Is it for something else? Is it because you have a desire for renovation and not a new build? All of these are questions in the survey. We need your input townwide to answer these questions so the board can start to get some information and formulate what's next.
There are 15 people watching right now, so.
15.
All 15 of you.
Well, I just reached 15 people. And I'm sure all 15.
People are gonna watch it again.
All 15 have already filled in the survey.
Excellent. Way to go.
And for those early 300 people that did it, thank you.
It's 300? That's great.
300, yeah.
Over 300 is what Mr. Mitchell told me.
I manned the booth at voting the other day, so it was good for
Yes,
a couple
thank
of
you.
hours.
Thank
You're welcome. You're welcome. All right, anything else on the facility side?
Well, so do we need to do a motion for 1,000 or?
Is that what you're asking for?
Yes.
Are you gonna make the motion?
I'll make a motion to. I thought maybe someone else might want to give us a plug here. So, I'll make a motion to allocate $1,000 to the FIC for the purposes of distributing and promoting the survey.
I'll second.
Question being, where is that money coming from? Looking at the BA.
That is a good question. The school board.
The board has a budget.
The school board budget, I would assume.
I think that's what we used for.
The mailers,
I
yeah.
think so.
If it makes sense, it may come out of like a SAU supply line too, because we have accounts with printers and those type of things as well, so.
Can I ask just a general question that's not related to the motion? Was there a concerted effort to advertise the survey as the district facilities and not mention GMS? I'm just wondering.
No, because I mean, if you actually read the survey, it is largely
about GMS. So I'm wondering if people, if I look and I say, oh, a district facility survey, that sounds bland and boring, but we know people are very passionate about the GMS question. So I'm wondering if you might get more people to take one, or
you can ask our marketing person.
If it says, share your thoughts about the future.
So
of
I
GMS.
think, sorry to speak in from the audience.
That's
When we
okay.
were in the facilities improvement committee, the concerted effort, in my understanding, was that it is a representation of all three schools in the district. That it wasn't just about GMS, because there are some questions on there of whether or not we
add on to other schools.
Minimize schools, add other schools. What are your thoughts out there? So the color coding of the chart was the orange of GMS, with that idea that would, people look at orange and know that's GMS's color if they're in the community. And
Right. I just wonder if we might get more people to kind of take a second look if we say this is about the GMS question.
Well, what we could say is,
GMS.
we have a $44 million proposal for you, and if you click this, you can tell us whether you want to go with it or not. and
Well,
then
I just think it's as easy
we'll
as
get
in the
about 2,000
description.
responses.
I'm just offering my own.
No, I
thoughts.
appreciate that,
My own
yeah, I
thoughts.
appreciate that. Well, I'll bring that back.
Let's find the post for March where there was like 500 responses and bring that back to the top of the WhatsApp page, right?
Yeah, I did
If you
share it
have
on the
an
WhatsApp page.
opinion, why don't you put it in your
share it on
thing?
I shared it on the WhatsApp
Thank you.
page, yeah,
Oh, thank you, great.
as a resident.
Motion second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstained, 500.
Thank you for the reminder on that.
So I'm here for.
I planned on starting with that too, and then
I made a little note for myself, so I didn't forget to.
All right, moving into school board comments this evening.
We're off and running. Everyone's doing great.
The board is quiet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had stuff and I didn't write it down. I just wanted to reiterate that the board did decide on October 23rd for the New Hampshire School Funding Fairness Project presentation. I don't know, Mr. O'Connell, if you have secured the auditorium for that night.
I have not officially, but I have it in my head,
It's in
so,
your head,
yeah.
okay.
But I will do that
The
tomorrow.
thought was we would, there will be a registration link. I'm waiting for the materials to come in from NHFFP, so that we can begin advertising it. There will be a link to register. They find that that's easier to kind of gauge the size of the crowd and how many handouts to bring. And they're looking for everybody to come. I would like to invite, if the chair wouldn't mind sending personal invitations to the select board, the budget committee, our town leadership.
Absolutely.
I think it's very important, our separate state representatives, candidates for state representative, and student council. I can extend an invitation to student council. They'd like to get students involved too and hear kind of student voices. They suggested if we have school board reps that they come, as it is, we'll all be there in attendance hopefully, and they'd like to hear from them too. So
You probably already said this, but what time is it at?
6:30.
6:30.
Sounds good. Any other updates?
So, were there any other questions about the universal trip? I wasn't aware that we were I think the board had approved that, so I didn't know if there was any outstanding.
There were questions where Mr. Lamy had to come back to us with some information.
Yeah, can you just fill me in on what that, is that for this school year?
In
Okay.
February. So it's the music trip, the performing arts.
Like to Florida?
To Florida.
Yeah, okay.
I guess I'm just maybe not recalling if those questions were answered.
I think there were
or-
some questions about how many would be going if we don't get enough students to participate, would it be canceled? At this point, we have enough attendance to go, so full steam ahead at this point.
I can check with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Manifest.
I just have one question on the manifest. The Impact Fire Services, we just paid a large amount of money. It looks like it was mostly inspections. There were some repairs, though. I'm assuming none of those related to what you're asking for. Okay. That's my only question.
Okay, and with
No, one more signature.
one more signature in this time. I think this is the one Ann sent out. Yeah.
I just saw this one.
Yep. We'll give it a moment for the signature on the manifest. No pressure. Maybe while we do that, if you're okay, we'll move into our second community input for the evening?
Yes,
Okay,
please.
so next up on the agenda is our second community input. Anything goes for the second round tonight. Mr. Oblinus, welcome back. Just your address one more time for the record, please.
Yes, Robin Linus, 15 Riverview Circle.
Sir.
Actually, what I wanted to follow up on is what was brought up a minute ago, is the LMS project. I spent a fair amount of time trying to go back and see what was actually approved and what's been done, and it's very difficult to grasp and get a handle on. If I understand correctly, we originally approved and expected to spend $5 million, and the current budget or expenditures is around $9 million, and there's another $1 million to be spent for the buyout clause. So that's coming up close to $10 million. So it appears to me, if I remember right, we've had some change orders that were fairly substantial, and other things. So I would like to ask the board to actually take it as an action item to, and I like the term legal, form a committee to evaluate that from a forensic point of view, to evaluate the contracts. If the change orders has been as substantial as they appear to be, and the time limits violated so much, it seems reasonable that there should be some claims presented against the contractor, designer, or other people. So I think my recommendation and hope is that the board will undertake that, and if you would like to have somebody participate in that and review of documents, which I've done, I would be happy to offer my services to be part of anything that you do related to that.
Thank you, sir. We'll take that under advisement.
Thank you.
Just in terms, I'm pulling up a BA report from last year, which has all of the
All that
details, so
info.
give me just a second here to do that.
You remembered the exact date?
I remember Mr. Totten's, yes.
Because he kept it
Yep.
all year long. So
Yeah,
it would be the last report.
I don't have, I'm going off the top of my head, I don't have it in front of me at the moment, but I recall the total price for LMS being in the 7.5 to 7.9 range. Again, I don't have that exact number in front of me, but that's the total.
We can get it, so, you know, this, in complete transparency, we're new July 1st, or July even later than that, and we were bridging it, so I know we were wrapping up the project as we were coming in, so I'm sure I can get it. Doug's a phone call away. You know, we have all of Doug's files, so it might take some time to just dig through it a little bit to get the exact documents that you're talking about and everything. But I'm sure, you know, Doug will help us out, well, I'm assuming, you know. Doug will help us out with that and help us sort through it all. So it's something we can certainly look into. Like, I don't think it's a bad exercise at all.
Yeah, those are all directly linked into our board agenda items.
I kind of vaguely remember it when I was like
Yeah, they're
semi-attending, you know, from the audience and stuff, but without the.
Yeah, I just have to go back and find it, which I can do. That's all, it's all there. In regard to the balloon payout, valid point, but the balloon payout is in the 600K range. Still something we need to be thinking about for sure. Yep, and that's now added to the capital improvement
CIP,
plan as well, just for keeping us honest on that.
Yep.
Okay. All right, anything else from comments perspective this evening? Manifest looking good?
All done.
Manifest is all done. All right, so with that, we're going to close the public portion of our school board meeting this evening. We are going to go move into non-public session per RSA 91A. There are just a couple of items under C, 91AC, that the board will be discussing this evening, and then we will wrap our meeting. With that, I will entertain a motion to go into non-public.
So made.
Motion by Ms. Ames. I will second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstained?
Sorry, I was an aye.
Carried. 500. We are now in non-public. Thank you all. We hope you have a great evening. Our next board meeting is October 2nd, 2024. We'll see you then.